look at how to create some of those designs. They're designed similar to what's on our scarf using the Elna Digitizer EX program. The program is similar to MBX, but there are a few differences. First, we're going to start by opening up the digitizing portion and then inserting an image. And our image comes from a scan of a vintage pattern that, we really just liked. Now, if you look here, nothing shows up unless you come down and change from bitmap to either all files, or in this case, I know that they're JPEGs because I scan them. So I can select the JPEG file. I'm going to go ahead and select this motif because I like it. It's a good example to use, and I don't have to do a lot of work to create this. So I'm going to go ahead and insert this, and it's inserted into the digitizing portion. Now, I could use the tools in this program to create, this motif, like, the running stitch tool. I would have to be very careful about how I did this, and I'm going to use my scroll wheel to zoom in, because I don't want to have a bunch of jumps. So I'd have to really think about how I digitize this and where I ended my lines and how I connect things. And, it would be a little bit more complicated than I really want to do right now. So instead, I'm going to use another portion of the program that's a graphics portion. You can see here I'm on the little pencil icon. And it says switch to graphics mode. So I'm going to select that icon. Let it go over into the graphics program, and we're going to look at how to create this design in a graphics program. And ironically, it's actually a lot less work than creating it in the program, and then we're going to let the automatic stuff in the program create a really cool design for us. So you can see I'm kind of zoomed in, so I'm going to go ahead and zoom out, and I can scroll wheel in and out just like I can in the regular program. But this program is literally drawing. The input tools are very similar to the digitizing program. You just have to know what you're looking for. Let's look at a couple of settings first. Here's this snap to option. So we're going to click on that, and we don't want to snap to anything right now. So I'm going to remove any check marks here. We're not snapping to anything. We need to have a little more freedom than it's snapping to points right now. So right now that's where we're at. The next thing we need to do is tell it what we want it to create. So we're going to come down to this icon. And there's a little black arrow on the corner, so just click on the black arrow and expand that out. We want to create a 1-point line or a half-point line. These two lines are going to create running lines in the program with no problem. So I'm going to go ahead and go with the 1-point line. Okay, so I've told it what I want to create. Now I have to pick the tool to create it. So I'm going to come up to the line tool. In this case, it's on Freehand Draw. And see that little black triangle again? I'm going to go ahead and click on that and expand this out. I have to click and hold to get that to expand sometimes. But I want to select the pen tool. So I'm going to select the pen tool, and we're ready to go. You ready? I'm going to zoom in, and it doesn't matter because it's an image how I create these lines. So I can do them in any order I want. But I will tell you, I like to work smarter, not harder. So we're only going to create part of this, and then we're going to use some other features in the program to create the rest of it. First off, I'm going to start here with a left click. And if I drag, I get these arrows. So I don't want to drag. So if you make a mistake and you drag like that, just press escape to get out of that. And start with a left click and come down here. Left click, right? Press enter. And just keep creating these lines. You don't want them connected together because we're going to connect them together with the bar at the bottom. But you can see some of these get very close towards the bottom. Remember to press enter to end the line input. And there we have it. We've got our 4 lines on this side created. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of zoom in and scroll down just a little bit. And we're going to even these lines up real quick. So if I come over here on the side, there's a reshape line. Select the reshape line. You can see I've got, this little arrow now, and I can kind of reshape these. Click on the next line, reshape it, and move them around to make sure they're kind of lining up a little better at the bottom. You just want to make sure that they're all about in the same position and length because we're going to connect them to that bar down there later. Alright, so we've got these lines all taken care of. I'm going to zoom out. And so that's really kind of one half of this. So let's go ahead to the select tool. The first one's already selected. The last one that I edited, it's already selected. So now let's hold our shift key down and start clicking on each one of these lines. If something like that happens, just click off to the side if you need to. But these are all going to form like one big giant rectangle. So I want to hold my shift key as I select each one of these, and I'm selecting multiple lines right now. Okay, so there, all of my lines are now selected. I'm going to move over to the center of them, right click, and group these together. Now they're really seen as one piece, not one line, but one piece. Then I'm going to use a couple of tools that we have. Copy, paste, and then I'm going to flip these. Then I'll just kind of click on these and drag them over. And to make sure that these both line up, I'm going to hold my shift key again, select both of them, and I need to use some of the aligning tools. So now I'm going to make sure that these align. So I'm going to go up to Arrange and Align and Distribute, and I want to align at the bottom. Okay, so those are aligned at the bottom. I'm not going to worry if this doesn't line up perfectly with the lines on the other side. The goal was really to, make this fairly even. Okay, now I just have one more line to make down that center. So I'm going to go ahead, and I've already told it what I want, so I don't have to worry about that. But I need to click on this and make the line down the middle. And I'm going to zoom in here. Okay, there's all of my lines. Now let's go back up to our snap to. And we're going to go ahead and say, we don't want to snap to guidelines. We want to snap to objects. So that's going to be selected. And I'm going to begin making a line across here. And watch what happens. These are all, see the little nodes as I come across here? Snap, that snaps to. I can just kind of mouse across each one and make sure that they're all connected. Or I could just kind of go straight across. So I'm going to go ahead and extend past this a little bit. And that little bit of wiggle that you see there will not show up. It's just, we're zoomed in 1200%. So I know those lines are all kind of connected together and it's pretty good right now. So I'm going to go ahead and say, make that box, and that's connected. Now let's zoom out a little bit and let's look at the rest of this. Just because there's a gap in this image right here does not mean I need to leave that gap there. I don't really want to, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make it so that there is no gap between this. Just by connecting these pieces together, making like a little box. Then we're going to kind of continue down. And these are a little more complicated in the middle here. But right now, we're just going to worry about making this piece. Let's zoom out a little bit. So now we've got this, perfectly wonderful piece here. And from here, I would just worry about making this piece here, and this piece here, and this. Because all I need to do is create one section of this, and then I can duplicate it. So let me go ahead, and I'm going to do this very quickly. And how you do this is going to be up to you. I don't have to do everything in an order, but I am going to go and do something along the lines of this. Just for that center section, I don't want to make too many small pieces. Small pieces mean small stitches, and that's not always good when you're sewing things out. But I do need to make something that, kind of lines up pretty good here. We'll go ahead and extend out to here. and try to make that as even as possible. And we can always adjust it if we need to. Kind of make this as even as possible, even if we have to really adjust these things a little bit. And I can always select the node and delete it as well. Now, bear in mind, right now we're still zoomed up about 600%. So, don't panic that this doesn't look, perfect and even. When you really come back to 100%, it looks fairly well. Okay, so here is my one section. Then I would just continue to create this piece right here. And, from there, it's just a matter of selecting everything, copying and pasting it, and then rotating it around. But for right now, so that this lesson isn't overly long, I'm going to go ahead and just stop here. Okay, so now we've got, our lines somewhat drawn, and, we have this image back here. I'm kind of assuming you finished the drawing, but, it's always a good thing whether you finished the drawing or you didn't to save your drawing. So we're going to go ahead and say File and Export. And you're going to export this. You should probably use Illustrator and save it as an AI file. And the reason is it's very editable when you open it back up into this portion of the program, should you want to make some changes later. So I'm going to go ahead and call this Crazy 3. And I'm going to save my file. And I'm just going to export it. So remember, export. And it's going to ask me a bunch of options here. Usually, with the text, unless you want to come back and edit your text, you would do this as curves, but it's up to you. Either or is fine. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it at the defaults and just say OK. So now the drawing is exported, and why it's important is this. If I select the drawing and throw it into the program, like if I would select, the drawing portion along with the lines, this is going to be auto-digitized in the program. And we already know that it's a JPEG and it's really bad and the lines are not good. So it's going to be kind of an ugly design. So I don't want anything to do with this image. So I can kind of pull the image out of my way. And if I want, because I've already saved it, I can delete the image. Now, to put this into the program to create a design, I have to select the portions that I want to be created. Most cases it's going to be the whole design, but maybe you want to do color layers, so you could select certain sections. In this case, we're going to go ahead and select everything. Now that everything is selected, this icon highlights here. And when I click this, I'm going to go back into the digitizing program, and boom, the digitizing is done for me, and I don't have to worry about jump stitches. If I had done this by hand, I would have had to worry about my in and out points. Here's what you have if I go out of 3D view or visualizer. I have the initial jump from the center to where this is going to start. And you know that this icon means that's where it's going to end. But here's the beauty of all of this. Let me zoom back out. I'm going to select this. I can do anything I want with this. Whether it's a small portion or a big design, I can come in here and I can move my in and out points. So if I wanted to start here and end over here, I can do that. If I wanted to have a different stitch pattern, I can come in here and say, really, I think I might like this to be a stem stitch. I'll leave the settings alone, and I can change the color. Since this is going to be small and there's a lot of detail, I probably wouldn't go any further than a triple run. But I can even change the stitch length if I like. And all of that was done automatically in the program, calculating how to route this so that I have no jump stitches. So that is the beauty of doing the work in the custom or the Corel Draw portion of the program. You can see this looks pretty good. Now, I would also make sure that I finished the image before I threw it in here, but you could take this and control your in and out points and just rotate here. So that is how you create your motif. Now, the beauty of this is I can do, a couple of different things doing this. I'm going to go back and open up an image that I've already created. And to do that, I'm just going to say, you know what, file import. And remember, we had, Crazy 3. That's the one that, we just created. I think Crazy 1 is one I created earlier. So I'm going to go ahead and back up for a second. And you can see I've been kind of playing with this portion of the program. It's really a lot of fun. I'm going to go ahead and select Crazy 5, which is this complicated, image here, and import it. Okay, here is an image that I created in this portion of the program, and then I did turn it into a design, but this, particular image has some issues I want to get rid of, like these little circles. I know that they're, going to cause me a lot of jump stitches, so I'm going to go ahead and I brought this in, so I'm going to ungroup it, and I can click on each one of these little circles. I could hold the Shift key and select them all at once too, but it's about the same amount of work, so I'm just going to go select and then press the delete key. And I've deleted those little circles, so I now know that the thing that caused me an issue is no longer there. So the whole design is done. I could resave this image, but right now I'm just going to select everything by left click and dragging. Or I could go up to Edit, select all. And I'm going to put this into the program. So there it is in the program. It's all, done for me. There's no jump stitches. And the way I check for the jump stitches, just turn your visualizer off. And the only one I have is the jump from center to where it starts. Let's go ahead and look at how to use this and create a motif. So I'm going to go ahead to reshape. And here is my endpoint. This green square is my endpoint. This red plus symbol is my out point. If I want to do a motif, I want to try to control where, these in and out points are. Or if I'm going to do a gallery object, I want to control where these are. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move my in and out point to, here's my in point, and here's my out point. You can see we're out of visualizer, so the only jump I have is the original one from center, which actually doesn't stitch. I'm also going to change the color, and I'm going to change my stitch type. I do want to make this a little bit heavier because it's bigger, so I'm going to say triple run, and I'm going to increase that stitch length to 3 and say OK. So now this is what I have. It's looking pretty good. And I want to turn this into a motif. Not necessarily because I want to use it for a line, because I will show you some issues with the lines, but because I can use it as a gallery object and do just about anything I want. So with the design selected that we just created, I'm going to go up to embroidery, and I'm going to say make motif. And you can see, you can make your own folders here. I'm going to just go ahead and say project motif. Give this a name, project 1 motif. Then I know maybe what it was for. And I'm going to say OK. Now, it's not being created yet. This is where remembering where your in and out points were placed comes in handy. I need to tell it where the in point is, where I want it to start. So I place a left click. And if I hold the control key, I can go straight across to that out point. And if you want to leave some space, you can extend past it. In this case, I kind of want them to touch, so I'm going to get very close to this. Place a second left click, and it tells me your motif has been created. So now I know that that's created. I'm going to delete it off the screen for right now because I want to show you something else. This is what I can do with those. Let's go ahead and get a bigger hoop in here too, so I have a little more room. I can use these as a gallery object or as a motif, but the gallery objects are going to behave a little bit better. So I go to the embroidery gallery. I'm going to locate my folder where these were saved. I'm going to select the motif I just saved. And what happens is this. I can come over here and I can, left click, and it places the first gallery object. I can right click to flip it, and it places the anchor, see? And then I can left click, and I can create this pretty nifty border just by left clicking, right clicking, and left clicking. Or I can left click and move, to rotate or navigate maybe a corner. When I'm done, I just press escape. Let me hide my hoop real quick. And I've created this neat little run. Everything's running pretty well together because I controlled the in and out points. I might want to move things around a little bit, and I can because each of these motifs is, individual pieces. The other thing I can do, but due to the way these are created, or maybe some of the limits of the motif lines, I could come in here and say, let's make a motif line. And you can see it, even though I controlled the in and out points, I still have a lot of jumps. So sometimes this is a little bit better, and I can kind of flip things around with this. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. But I wanted to let you know, what you could do if you wanted to create something of your own in the program. Now, with that being said, you do have motifs that are built into this program that would be phenomenal for the shawl. And let's go back here and look at what we've got. I am going to recreate this line, and we'll go into our settings and select the motif. In your motifs, you have, your regular motifs, and then you have blackwork motifs. If you want to see what these really look like or get a better idea of what they look like stitched, just click on the True View little icon. You've got some very large motifs, and you've got some smaller ones, but I'm going to go ahead and select one of the large ones. You can see the size is pretty good size in millimeters, and you don't want to alter that too much because this has got a lot of detail. You could make it larger, but you definitely don't want to make it too much smaller. So I'm going to go ahead and say OK. And there is my motif line created using one of the built-in motifs. So you have a lot of options in this program that you can do, but I wanted to show you how you could quickly create some very simple but a little complicated designs in the program. We're going to go ahead and upload some of our creations from the program for you to use in the shawl, but I do encourage you to try to play with this a little bit and get comfortable with using some of the features in the program. Thank you.